This has been no secret. I used to watch you wrestle. Used to wrestle alongside you way back in the day. Didn't like women's wrestling. Then when you jumped into fighting, didn't like women's fighting. It was you and Ronda Rousey that kind of brought me along and said, I got to start paying attention to women. You trained harder than me in wrestling. As a result, made the world team, and I didn't. You train harder than me. I suspect now. Then when I was in my prime in fighting, you do that now in your fighting. You're 6-0. You have a totally different look, a totally different style than Ronda Rousey, but a lot of people, including myself, are comparing you to be the next person in line after Kat Zingano gets done with it. You'll be the next one in line to fight her. Have you noticed any added pressure in your training patterns because of this?
No, I think that because of the way I am with wrestling, I've set my sights on being number one since I started MMA. So, people were watching my fights in the women's MMA world the second I started fighting. So, there's no really added pressure. They're saying, an Olympian starting this, and we're going to see what she's made of.
You're 6-0. You had two submissions, one by punching and one by rear naked choke in the very beginning of your career, but your last four fights have all gone to decision. Why is just the talent was better now, and that's why you're going to more decisions, or did something change in your technique and style that made you have submissions early and not now?
I think it's the level change and the people that I'm fighting, and um, sometimes people are fighting to have like a good fight against you rather than them taking a lot of risk and trying to win the fight. And not saying all of them are like that. And some of it is just when you get two people who are close in skill, then it'll appear boring to somebody who doesn't know the technicalities of it. But some of it is that they just don't want to get thrown or they don't want to get embarrassed.
Let's talk about Kat Zingano and Misha Tate fight. There's been a lot of controversy around Kim Winslow, the referee. For that fight, a lot of people saying she stopped it too early. A couple fights earlier in the card, she stopped it too late. How do you feel about her reffing style in that particular fight?
I think that, like referees have a split second to make a decision between somebody's welfare and not. And so I'm a little bit more lenient on the refs. And I guess, like in wrestling, I was raised if you're on your back, you're at the ref's mercy.
Mm-hmm.
If they call you pinned, oh well, you shouldn't have been on your back. And I feel like if you are in a dangerous position where you can't protect yourself, or you look like that to the refs, then you're giving them the option. Whereas if you're dominating the fight and you're staying in good position, then you're not going to get the fight stopped. So
Mm-hmm.
I
Do
mean,
you
obviously we can't control everything, but
do you think
I say
Misha could have kept on fighting against Kat, or do you think that she was pretty much done at that point?
I don't know. I personally think that you know when she dropped, I also thought she dropped because she couldn't. I didn't look like a takedown attempt that I saw.
Right.
So when I saw her fall, I was like, oh man, like I thought she was hurt. So
Mm-hmm.
I probably would have made the same call as Kim. And it's only after I looked at her face and saw her a little clearer face, but she was eating a lot of unanswered shots.
Yeah. Without and really, when she started shooting, she went from being tight and having her shoulders shrugged and keeping her head up to all of a sudden really reaching with her hands, and that's a real bad sign of someone when they go from being real technical to not. That they're starting to get one exhausted, but two, the brain's starting to shut down a little bit. I think it was a good stoppage. I think it was the right on time. I think Kim actually, I don't like Kim Winslow as a referee. I think she's actually the worst referee we have. But I think in that one fight, she actually did a very, very good job. I don't like her because I think she gets too involved. The referee's there for fighter safety, not to be part of the show, and she tries to be part of the show too much. But that's just my personal opinion. That fight, she did a
Yeah.
great job.
And when you look at Misha's level change,
Mm-hmm.
it was a little too fast. Like that's
Yeah.
not. It looked like your legs are going out from under you rather than, it's only the people who can see after the fact that we can say whether it was a 1 second too short or 1 second too long. But their job is to protect her, and if Misha Tate would have gotten brain damage, I'm sure she would have wished that it was stopped earlier. And
Absolutely.
I would too. I'd say, damn, it sucks that I lost, but the alternative is too long.
Exactly. Okay, let's move on to your first fight in the UFC. You're getting ready to fight Sheila Gaff. What do you know about your opponent, and how do you see her when you watch tapes of her?
I just, I've watched a little bit of her stuff, just enough to get the general sense of how she likes to fight, her pace, where she gravitates towards, how she is a little bit on the ground, like her go-to stuff, basically. And like the biggest thing that stands out is her, intensity level and the pace that she likes to keep. It's very high, and very overwhelming pace.
Now, her pace to me seems like she tries to keep a very, very high pace with a lot of people, where she's pushing like like a wrestler will. You're at 80%, but then when you need to accelerate to your 90%, your acceleration is so fast and can go for so long that people can't maintain and keep up with you. Do you see this fight being one of those where you have to prove that, look, I'm in way better shape and I'm way stronger, that you're going to have to like really settle her down in the first round and show her who's boss to kind of get her to quit moving? Or is it going to be a long pick and move kind of pace?
I think it would probably be closer to the first one. I think that, that's what I've trained to just say that sometimes when people set that pace, like if you can't match that pace, you also get overwhelmed with that. Like, and I just noticed that, like, when I go with people in wrestling, if I wasn't someone who was just answering right back and getting right into the mix of things that I ended up being the one that was, a second behind where the fight was going or the match was going and stuff like that. So I train to match it, or, be the one who dictates the pace rather than, just to stay back and be more defensive.
Absolutely, and that makes the most amount of sense. That for me, when I started getting older and started slowing down a little bit, and these kids were getting younger and faster, that I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a second behind. So let me grab them. I'm just gonna grab them. I'm gonna tie them up. And I'm gonna let them know how strong I am, and I'm gonna wear them down by leaning on them. Now they can't move as fast, and now I'm back in the game. But if I let it be a separation game, I get killed because I can't catch them, and I end up always
Yeah.
being behind. So.
Yep. Or letting them choose the pace. You
Yeah.
have to say, we're going my pace, and that's just the way it is.
Give us a normal training day for you, beginning of training camp. Not now, because I know things are tapering down. You're starting to change a little bit more, but like beginning of training camp, what's a normal day for you?
I normally train twice a day. I have technique in the morning and live stuff in the afternoon. And so usually I do that year round just because I'm a wrestler and I just train year round. But when it's like the beginning of my camp, it's earlier at the beginning of my camp, like about a month out, it'll be longer goes, to build my conditioning base. And then as I get closer and closer, it's short and highly explosive goes. Like, it'll even taper down to like 1 minute goes where people are working in on me, or 1 minute goes where it's my absolute maximum pace, like I get a short break and then I go 1 minute, like a pace that I couldn't actually maintain for, 15 minutes. So just to build my shorter range explosiveness and stuff like that too. It's really similar to like the tapering you would do for wrestling.
Yeah, nothing's changed except the cardio system. Instead of going hard for depending what era you were in, 5, 6, or 7 minutes, it's set up now that you're going to be able to do that for 15 minutes. So you have to double your cardio system. What was the toughest part for you to learn? I mean, obviously you're such a great wrestler. Was it the boxing portion, the jiu-jitsu portion, or the ability to slow down a little bit and be able to maintain for 15 minutes?
Actually, I'm pretty surprised, but the longer that it goes, the better it is for me. Like, I don't know why, like, as I get older, and it's definitely better that I don't have 6 competitions in one day.
Right.
Having one competition, that's great. I can definitely do that. But when I notice, like, whenever I don't train, my striking comes back pretty sharp. It only takes a couple workouts to rust, get the rust off and stuff. But my jujitsu, I start making, like the mistakes that I make. I start getting back into wrestler habits. So it didn't make sense to me at all. I talked to my boyfriend about it, and he's like, "Oh, it makes sense because with the striking, you're building new muscle memory. Whereas sometimes with the jiu-jitsu, you're rewriting old muscle memory. And, like if I have a little time off, and then my 16 years in wrestling starts to, come back
Stronger. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Last question before I get you out of here. How tough is it for you to have a girly girl as a daughter?
Sometimes I'm like, am I your real mom? Like,
I
what
must
happened?
admit, I stalk you on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. Like, I follow everything. And every time you put a picture of your daughter, I laugh so hard and watch her in her little dresses and she's walking around. I'm like, Sarah, you got your hands full with her.
and like she's every bit as sassy and stubborn. Like she will like stand up to me, and this is when she was like 2 years old. She'll refuse to do something, and I can be like, "You're gonna go take a nap," or I can be like, I'll try and entice her. I'll be like, if you do this, I'll give you some candy, and she just refuses, and I'm like, dang, I gotta respect that. Like she just stood right up to me.
That's gonna be a good girl. What do you think she's gonna end up doing? Do you think that she's gonna end up being she's gonna be athletic just because her mom is? She has no choice. But will it be more of a wrestling physical sport, or do you think she'll be more of like tennis, gymnastics, golf kind of space?
I don't know. Like I'll probably get her more involved with jiu-jitsu because she's really tiny,
Yeah.
and I figure jiu-jitsu is a little better sport for that if you're a smaller opponent. So she already knows some arm bars and she knows takedowns and stuff like that. So I think I would really enjoy her doing jiu-jitsu. But
Yeah.
wrestling, she's going to be the tiniest in the room, and sometimes that's pretty rough.
It makes it for a long practice when you're the smallest guy in the room for sure.
Yeah.
It's really tough. I don't care if you're male or female. You get in that room and everyone's 5 or 10 pounds heavier at the smallest level. I mean that's a lot of weight. I mean you're really having a problem. So
It's much better if you can attack their neck or their arm or.
yeah, absolutely. Their heels and their knees and get them out of the way. Yeah, it's perfect. Sarah, thanks for coming on here, MMA Oddsbreaker. I really appreciate you coming on here, and I personally want to say thanks for you being one of the really cornerstone females that changed my mind about female fighting. Like I really was against it, didn't like it, never paid attention to it, and really started because of honestly, and this is not me just trying to hype you up, because you and Ronda were fighting, I started paying attention. You are the reason why I started paying attention to this fighting, even though it's been around since for as long as I've been fighting.